either choose to perish or to learn.
Pamela Geller, Atlas Shrugs, thank you so much for being with us. So, interesting developments not only at the NSA, but it looks as though it seems somebody within the administration is a leaker.
Yeah, and I really think that Trump is going to have to go after that. I am very distressed by Flynn's resignation. I think he was a very good guy. I'm not buying the Logan Act, a private citizen shouldn't engage in diplomacy. It's just, there's a bigger story here. I don't know what it is. I do know the CIA had been gunning for him. The idea that they're talking about Petraeus, who, he's a weak sister. He doesn't get it on jihadic doctrine and the whole war. He doesn't get it. Flynn got it. Flynn was a really good guy. I do trust Trump. And I don't think that he has been bullied or I think this was his decision. I think there's more to the story. I don't know what it is, but I have to be honest with you. I'm not happy with that development at all. He's a really good guy.
Yeah,
but they're not telling us everything, Jamie. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think part of it, I'm understanding that the crux of the issue really was not as much the phone calls as it was his statements to Vice President Pence. But the reality is somebody recorded the call. And we don't know whether it was the NSA or what the situation was, but somebody had a transcript of this call, apparently.
And who gave it to the Washington Post? How was the Washington Post privy to it? I mean, it's just so wrong, and that's what the CIA and the NSA are doing. They're now listening in on our elected leaders. Really, that's where all of this got us. That's where the Patriot Act and all of this, these counter jihad measures. That's where it got us.
Yeah,
are they listening to Trump? It's terrible. And again, to your point, and I'm glad you're talking about this. This is a very big story. It's a big, important point that is somehow, again, being ignored because the perps are the media. The perps are the left. And they're doing everything to undermine this man. And I think it's going to blow up on them. I think that they're quote unquote listening to their base. I don't know what that means, but I'll tell you, they're going to lose more seats in November. Because whether they like it or not, Trump won. And whether they like it or not, the majority of the American people wholeheartedly support the immigration restrictions imposed by President Trump and then, halted by the notoriously uber-left clowns on the Ninth Circuit Court. But America wanted it. America elected him for these very, very reasons. I think this is going to come back to bite them.
Yeah, and then we have a situation, though, also, where we have these three Muslim brothers who have been fired after hacking into secure computers that are utilized by Senate congressional subcommittees on Homeland Security. And yet I don't see much of a peep about that at all, or a demand that they be fired, or a demand that there be a larger investigation. What has happened to that story?
Yeah, what is happening to that story? It's a story that they don't want to tell. That these three Muslims who work for a number of members of the House Intel Select Committee were stealing, were spying and stealing and moving this intel to another server. You're right. This is, again, another story that doesn't jive with the media, with the left-wing narrative. And so, it's on, our websites, it's on your show. I think that it's a huge story. But again, what we're starting to see here, and I think it's a tipping point, that the media is losing its grip on not only on reality, but on the chokehold in the information battle space. That really is a very dangerous story. I tell you, Trump has to do a massive purge. I mean, he really has his work cut out for him. He has to do a massive purge. He does have to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group. And, of course, the left is just going,
right,
ape about that. You have Chuck Schumer, okay, who is supporting wholeheartedly the DNC chair run of Hakeem Mohammed, otherwise known as Keith Ellison, a known Muslim Brotherhood-tied congressman whose trip to the Hajj was paid by the Muslim Brotherhood, who, I know I covered them, led Hamas demos against Israel. They've really become the party of treason. They've really become the party of jihad. And if anything, Trump has to step up his efforts. He really does.
Yeah, well, he's got our backing, and he's got the backing of the people who voted for him. And yeah, I'm with you.
He needs like an entire communications department to literally, deal with all of the alternative media, because that's the only place that's going to report on anything without this incredibly, depraved bias.
Yeah, I noticed that there was a big outcry over the hand-picked reporters, and it's kind of like, wait a minute, what president at a news conference hasn't handpicked the reporters who are asking questions? It's ridiculous, but that's the response to having the alternative media sources there at the news conferences themselves. So, all right, Pam Geller, thanks again so much. I love talking to you, and of course our listeners love hearing from you every week, so we really appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jamie.
Take care.
Bye-bye.